This is the Rohingya refugee camp of Cox's Bazar, where more than 700,000 Rohingyas have taken shelter in the wake of a brutal military crackdown in Myanmar's Rakhine state, joining over 300,000 others who fled the previous waves of violence since 1980s. On July 2, 2018, they were eagerly awaiting to receive the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres as well as high-profile delegation. At last in the morning, he arrived at the Kutupalong camp accompanied by the World Bank President Jim Yong Kim. They talked to the refugees and visited a counseling center for abused Rohingya women and a field hospital. When Antonio Guterres walked through the alleys of the makeshift camp's embrace and met Rohingya boys and girls, he remembered his own granddaughters and tried to imagine what it would be like to see them in such conditions.
When I see the young boys and girls, I remember my own granddaughters. And I imagine what it would be to see my granddaughters living in these conditions. It is unacceptable.
He felt heartbroken as he listened to the Rohingya men and women their stories of cruelty and abuses in Rakhine state of Myanmar and the subsequent escape. They told it to the delegation, "We want a safe return to Myanmar, we want citizenship."
It is impossible to go today to the refugee camps in Cox's Bazar, the biggest refugee camp in the world, without feeling our heart completely broken with the testimony of the women, children, and men that we meet when they tell us the story of their tremendous suffering, of their horrible discrimination.
He said it is probably one of the most tragic stories in the world. The UN Secretary General became emotional as his voice sometimes choked when he was speaking. He added that it is systematic violation of human rights. Rohingya people are the most discriminated people in the world. They need recognition most basic rights of citizens by the government of Myanmar. After visiting the Rohingya refugee camp, coming back to Dhaka from Cox's Bazar, in a joint press briefing, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said, "It is the moment for the international community to be united very strongly to ask Myanmar to end the crisis and to recognize the needs, including addressing the citizenship issue."
It is the moment for the international community to ask Myanmar to end all these practices and to create the conditions for the Rohingya to be able to go back in safety and dignity, voluntarily, and to go back to their places of origin or to the places they choose, and to be able to enjoy all the rights that are typical of the citizens of any country in the world.
He added that they want both accountability and political solution to the crisis so that the Rohingyas return to the place of their origin or the place they chose and have access to all the rights to have a normal life.
The second question is related to accountability. There is a UN fact-finding mission. There is a special rapporteur from the UN. There were already reports presented. There is a group of new reports that are expected very soon that will be very clear in relation to the crimes committed. On the other hand, I know that Bangladesh, that is a member of the ICC, has already seized the ICC in relation to this question, asking the ICC to do its job. On the other hand, we have been briefing the Security Council, presenting reports to the Security Council. The Security Council visited Cox's Bazar and visited Myanmar, and I hope the Security Council will be able to unite in order to also create the conditions for that accountability to be possible. We need both accountability and political solution, creating the conditions for people to be able to have a normal life in their own country.
In reply to a question whether there was any deal with Myanmar ignoring the citizenship and freedom of movement issue, the UN Secretary General said there was no such agreement between the UN and Myanmar. Replying to another question about the designation of the Rohingya community, he said there was a disagreement between the UN and Myanmar on the designation of this community. We designate them as Rohingyas and Myanmar wants to designate them as Bengali Muslims, but we think this is a first step towards a solution.
No agreement between the UN and Myanmar that these people should not be called Rohingya. For the UN, they are called Rohingya. For Myanmar, they are called Bengali Muslims. And there is no agreement. And so when we had to establish with Myanmar a first set of conditions to allow for work in relation to a future return to be possible, there was no way to find a common name to designate this community. Because for us, they are Rohingya. For the government of Myanmar, they are Bengali Muslims. This disagreement exists. And so the document that exists, that, as I said, is a first step for the creation of conditions for the return, a lot being necessary in the future, does not establish a designation because there is no agreement between the UN and the government of Myanmar about that designation. So it's very clear that for us, they are Rohingya. Myanmar doesn't consider this population to be, at least entirely, citizens of Myanmar. From our perspective, they are stateless people, and one of the objectives of the UN in relation to statelessness is to make sure that everybody is granted a nationality, including the Rohingya in Myanmar.
He added that we need to push, we will be pushing. Every citizen should have a country. The UN insists on repatriation of the Rohingyas to Myanmar, but only when they can live there with dignity. The UN chief conveyed deep gratitude to Bangladesh for opening the border, while many other countries are closing their door. Humayun, Kabir, today's World News 24.